This time, it's all about return of the bronze statue. Are you ready to face the fear? I can't really say I believe in spirits. The reason is, I've never seen one. You might expect to hear, then don't come to a board like this, but I am indeed curious. It's because I've encountered strange happenings, or more accurately, coincidences, several times. By the time I turned 25, several people I knew had passed away. At this age, it's not common for acquaintances to die of old age. Accidents were the most common cause, but regardless of whether it was an accident, there were a few instances where people would say, maybe that was the reason. It was as if these coincidences were somehow linked to their deaths. Some people might write these off as mere coincidences, while others might consider them supernatural experiences. This takes me back to my high school days. Riding motorcycles and roaming around was our idea of fun, barely attending school and instead gathering at night to ride. Our group had a habit of testing our courage needlessly, repeating it many times. It could be about who could ride the fastest, how close to a wall one could break, who was the toughest in a fight. And, of course, there were the tests of bravery too. One time, we decided to visit a well-known haunted spot nearby. This haunted spot had a statue, and it was said if it seemed to move, you'd have an accident. Such places exist all over the country. Even among our circle, there were those who supposedly had accidents because of it, making it quite infamous. Looking back, it makes sense that high schoolers, new to biking and spooked by a haunted spot in the middle of the night, had a higher chance of accidents, giving the spot a veneer of credibility. We often visited it on various occasions. That day, the statue didn't seem to move, so we just hung around in front of it until someone told a friend of mine, hey, flick the statue's knee. There was another legend about this statue. Whatever you do to it would come back to you. Touch its eyes, and you'd have eye problems, among other rumors. A was the best driver among us but was also kind-hearted and easily scared. He was reluctant, but as per the unspoken rule, failing to do it would label you a coward. So, reluctantly, A flicked the statue's knee, but it was a light, grazing touch because he was scared. We all laughed calling him a coward. Try again, everyone urged, so I did. This time, a loud, dull sound echoed. As I winced from hitting his finger too hard, we all burst into laughter again. Looks like you're cursed already, we joked, it's coming back to you already. Out of frustration, A, almost in despair, embraced the concrete base the statue stood on, similar to a sumo wrestler making contact with their opponent. Nothing particularly scary happened, and we decided to head home. We got on our motorcycles, about 15 of us, and rode back in a line. By chance, A was leading. As we approached a sharp curve on a large road, we all leaned right to navigate the turn. I began to lean right as well. He leaned more and more. But instead of making a light lean, A leaned too far. His right knee seemed to graze the road, and then he slid and tumbled. It was just a sharp curve, not something you'd normally crash on. Especially A, who had the best riding skills among us. At first, when A leaned too much, we thought he was just fooling around. But then, reality hit as A was curled up, holding his knee. We all rushed over to find white showing through his wound. It was bone. Call an ambulance. Are you okay, A? While we all were shouting, our friend B yelled, it's the curse of that statue. What are you saying at a time like this? Just look at A's knee. Underneath the visible bone, there's a shallower wound. It's from the first flick. Chilled, we all quickly came to our senses and rushed him to the hospital. Over time, we forgot about the incident, but one day it came back to me. After high school, we all went our separate ways. Surprisingly, A chose a path in organized crime. It wasn't unusual for someone from our school to take that route, but it was unexpected for someone as kind-hearted as A to do so. Then, the news reached us. I had been involved in illegal dealings and was now in trouble. Since I joined that world, we lost touch and no longer knew where he lived. Over the past decade, none of our old friends had any news of A. Even those who entered the same underworld were reachable, but A wasn't. That day, as I was drinking with local friends, B, who had been there that day, began to recount the story. I stopped him. I understood what he wanted to say. That day, A had embraced the base of the statue in desperation. If that action had come back to haunt him, and he was still embracing a concrete reality, the thought was unbearable. How did you find that story? Wasn't it scary? But wait a minute, do you really think it was due to spirits? Perhaps it's a tale about how one's actions and choices can have long-lasting effects. Well, but whether spirits exist or not, ultimately, it's up to the individual. Let's all do what we believe is right, without being swayed by the opinions of those around us.